A warm welcome to the studios of MTA International in London. My name is Ibrahim Kwati, and in this week's edition of Contemplation, we discuss a very important subject, that is justice, the need for just decisions, just rulers, and justice delayed, they say, is justice denied. But before we set the ball rolling, let me give you a short intro about the subject justice. It has become topical for social commentators to attribute the cause of agitations, land and chieftaincy disputes and wars raging in many parts of the world to the lack of justice. What is seen as the lack of justice is not located only in social and political relations, but also in economic relations between countries. Essentially, what is being said is that without justice, there cannot be peace. Peace is therefore a consequence of justice. And with me in the studio to do justice to the discussion are two gentlemen. We have Honorable Justice Abdullahi Sheikh Fofana, who is a judge of the High Court of Sierra Leone. Honorable, you're welcome to Contemplations.
Thank you very much.
And with him to do the discussion is Maulvi Yusuf Yosen, who is Naib Amir 1 of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission, Ghana. Maulvi, you are also welcome. Let me say assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So let me begin with you, Honorable. Justice, everybody is talking about justice, the need for justice, the need for just decisions, just rulers, and so on and so forth. We will take a religious perspective to the issue of justice. But basically, what is the meaning of justice when you talk of justice?
Thank you very much. Well, justice means giving everybody his due. This is to say, in a wider sense, it is an act in which you allow everybody to benefit from and enjoy to a reasonable maximum the right that is due him, either politically, economically, or socially.
Right, Honorable. You are a justice, a judge of the High Court of Sierra Leone. You may have a lot of practical examples, but this is what the definition is supposed to mean, and then practically its manifestations. But we don't usually see that. Why is it so?
Well, it is because of the fact that people are not allowed to enjoy their basic rights, in the sense that they don't have available guarantees to ensure that the rights which are due them, as I said, either politically, economically, or socially, are meant for them to enjoy. If in any case there are available guarantees in our laws and in our various constitutions in the countries where we live, and if short guarantees are actually followed and implemented in the way it should be done, I believe the issue of justice will be better.
Yeah, Justice Fofana, you have you've repeated the word guarantees about 3 or 4 times. What is the guarantee that? What are these guarantees that you are talking about?
The guarantees are just that you should be able to ensure guides to be available to the people living in a country, in a society, in a community, that the rights that is due them to live and the way in which they should live in those countries, in those communities, in those societies are available to them. You should be able to ensure this. You should be able to make it open to them that at all times they can enjoy, they can benefit, and they can utilize these rights for the betterment of their lives.
Yeah. Honorable, I'll come back to you, but let me go to Maulvi. Maulvi, you are, I want you to look at the issue from the religious perspective. I'm sure the Holy Quran has comprehensively enshrined, a lot of provisions about justice. Let me read this portion, chapter 4, verse 136. It's been susceptible to different interpretations, but I want us to give us the basic tenets. O ye who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if it be against yourselves, your parents, and your relatives, or whether it is against the rich or the poor. This is a very serious quotation, let me put it away, because it has some strings, and people, find it difficult to accept the tenets of these provision. I want you to comment on this.
Well, It shouldn't be difficult for us or for people to accept these injunctions of Allah Almighty concerning justice. Justice, as the Honorable Judge said, is putting things at their right perspective, where they are due, and giving people their due right by way of possessing it and then applying it for the betterment of their lives. So in so doing, there are some people, like he said, who are empowered to ensure the dispensation of the justice. But like the Quran tells us, we have what they call distributive justice. That is, we should ensure that whoever has something that is due him from the basic level, from home to the community, the society at large, and the nation, and even internationally, what has been agreed upon by contract or convention. For instance, you are married to a wife, or a woman who's your wife. She has the right to shelter and to feeding and to clothing. You went into this contract with this understanding agreement. If you falter in doing so, then you haven't done justice. You have children. By being your children, they have the right to education, to good health, and then to moral upbringing. If you fail in doing your work and give them the right of possessing the moral values, then you have not done your work as just. And so when it comes to where people find it difficult to dispense with justice, if even it's against them, that comes a challenge. But as people who believe in Almighty Allah, who believe that there is a day of judgment on which they will give account to all their deeds and be responsible for what was in their custody, having this in mind should enable them to comply with the dispensation of justice.
Right, but let's come back to the real ingredients of the injunction. That is a place where some people would want to shy away from. It's a sticky point. In the dispensation of justice, if it be against yourselves, your parents, and your relatives, or whether it is against the rich or the poor, one should always be equal to the task. Let me give you a hypothetical situation. A soldier goes to war, and then he is sworn an oath to defend his country, to be just to all. And then he kills the opponents. Maybe he kills 3 people from the opposing side. And then he is prepared to shoot another, and he realizes that this is a relation, a blood relation. Emotions naturally will come up, but he is supposed to be just as he's killed others. In such situations, should a human factor override the desire to be just?
Well, such a person may be prone to that human instincts, seeing a brother or a relation, how difficult it would be for him to kill him or to murder him. But if we take instance from the life of our saints, of our holy prophet, and those saintly persons, it shouldn't be difficult for us, in the sense that you, being a soldier, have vowed to protect the nation, to give security to the people, and having taken this oath, you have to defend it and stand by it. And so if you make these human feelings override your morals or your reasoning, then you haven't done well and you don't merit to be a soldier. In the first place, nobody forced you to be in such a career or office. You chose it out of your own volition. And having done so, it is your duty, for which if you fail, it may be termed as treason, and you may be punishable by death. And so you have to consider the two. Will you die by way of being treasonable, or you will kill to defend the nation because this is a right you have sworn to defend? In both ways, you should weigh the pros and cons and choose the lesser evil. If the lesser is killing one person to defend a whole nation, you should do that, even if the person is your near relation.
We'll come back to practical examples from the Holy Prophet of Islam, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where you gave me an example. I'm sure you haven't forgotten that. But we have a caller on the line from Ghana, Emmanuel Suwate, but before we go to him, let's pick the thoughts of Justice Fofana briefly. Justice, you have been dispensing justice all the time. Have you been confronted, no, let me not put it that way, if you are confronted with a situation where your relations come into the fray in the dispensation of justice, where you have to send a relation to 10 years or 5 years, should the emotional factor be the overriding one?
Emotional factor should not be an overriding factor in a situation like that. This is simply because sitting as a judge means that you are performing a duty under oath to uphold the law. A duty under oath to uphold the law, which means that at all times you have to follow the law. You have to uphold the law, and you have to interpret the law in the sense, in the way in which it is stated to be interpreted, no matter whether it is a relation or any other person of interest to you who stands before you. For as long as the law applies against him, you have to apply it just in that way, without any sentiment, without any considerations for family relations or for other friendship relations. Because as I said, it is a duty under oath. One, you are bound to uphold the oath to which you have subscribed as a judge, as a judicial person. And also, you subscribe to that oath simply because you are required to uphold the law at all times, so that even if the law tells against you, even if it tells against your relation, even if it tells against anybody of interest to you, your paramount duty there is not to follow any short sentiments. You have to uphold the law, and at all times you must do so.
Well, Honorable, in order to not to belabor the point, you've categorically made a point. I need a quick one, this is a personal question. So if your wife comes in front of you, you have to send her to jail. Would you do that personally?
Well, if you certainly fall with the law, you should send her to jail. But then again, it's a real situation, because I must say, if it is a relation, a close relation, in whose case you have an interest that is standing before you, what you can do as a judge there is that you can recuse yourself from the matter. That is to say, you can ask that another judge hears this matter, simply because of the reason that the person now standing before you is your wife, is a close relation. But again, what you have to do so is only to ensure fairness again on the part of the law, because it will appear to be so difficult for you to avoid sentiment in a situation like that. But then, in order to ensure fairness not only to yourself, not only to your wife, but to the law, fairness to the law, you must ask that you cannot sit on this matter, you have to recuse yourself from it, and that another judge be asked to sit in the matter.
Right. Thank you very much. But we have a caller, Emmanuel Suwate from Ghana. Thanks very much for your time, Mr. Suwate. I hope you've been following the discussion.
Yes, I have been following, yes.
Exactly. We want you to give us your perspective about justice. What are the ingredients, entailed in justice?
Okay, thank you. But just a quick correction. I was called. I didn't call in. I think I have to make that correction for records. I was called from the studio to share my thoughts. The other thing is that I want to look at it from two perspectives. The first one, of course, has even three perspectives. The first one has to do from the biblical perspective, my understanding. The second one from traditional, and the third one from social. So let me start from the social. You see, the notion of justice, or the notions of justice, are also shaped by particular cultural, historical settings. So, for example, let's use Ghana. There are certain societies in Ghana, low-income communities that have been working in, and that community, for them, their sense of justice is also embedded in the process that one goes through to achieve justice. So I explain. I've been working in a predominantly Muslim community, as you know, Nima. with some neighborhood watch group for some time now. Now, that neighborhood watch group has been dealing with a number of issues relating to peace, security, and development. And inherent in that are notions of justice and injustice and how that can be addressed for sustainable peace, security, and development. And so I'll give an example. This particular watch group, West Neighborhood Watch Group, deals with, for example, marital issues. So people might go to them and tell them that my husband has beaten me or my husband has denied me certain resources I need for housekeeping. They would normally call the husband and the husband will come. Why? Because you see, oftentimes Western legal philosophies are unintelligible to the average educated Ghanaian, less so uneducated. So when they go to these people, one, they speak the Hausa language, that is a lingua franca in Lima, and that's also a strong issue of identity. They are also of the same religion. They are also in the same community. That community is predominantly low income, highly or densely populated. So the people who are dispensing justice are sensitive to their kids and kin. So if you go there, one, you avoid unnecessary adjournment that has been very often characterized our legal system, and justice delayed is justice denied. That is one. You circumvent that. Secondly, you don't have to pay huge legal fees because you engage directly with the neighborhood watchdog people. Three, the philosophy and the principles that shape that society and their notions and their views of justice, their notions and their views about how children should be brought up, how men should conduct their activities with women, and vice versa. I'm talking about gendered role, not necessarily putting one in a subservient or inferior position, but making sure that you understand each other. And not only also that, but creating space for them. Why am I giving these details? To show that the processes are as important as the end product of justice.
Right, Mr. Swate, we wish we could give you more time to talk about this, but we definitely would come back to you in the course of the program. Thanks very much for sharing your views about this subject. So I'm sure you follow the discussion. But now, let me come back to you on the issue of justice. Equality, when we talk of justice, we talk of equality. But there are times that justice is achieved through inequality. Could we expatiate on that?
Well, it's a fact that sometimes in dispensing with justice, you have to look at it relatively. For instance, somebody has meted out a lot of injustices, to someone or to a group of people, like taking their land from them, utilize it in other ventures. When it comes to dealing with justice, we have to see it in two ways. The Quran says, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا. The recompense of evil doing is an equal of it. فَمَنْ أَفَى, but whoever will forego or forbear, وَأَصْلَحَ, and choose that way by way of reforming in the process, فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ, his reward lies certainly with God. If the person dispensing justice looks at it this way, that, the person has done a lot of injustice on such a person or such a community, but now, if I'm to take the land from him and give to the other party, he will be deprived of some rights or some livelihood, whereby he may say that instead of taking the whole lot from the man, he's going to take half. But in so doing, others will think that he has not dispensed it equitably. But that is the way he has to take into consideration the outcome, the consequences of his dealing or his verdict. If it will bring a reformation by making the other group, especially when it comes to tribal matters, by taking the whole land from that tribe or person, the course will continue. That is to say, there will be tribal wars and disputes and quarrels. He have to take half of it to appease the other group, at least you have had half of the land. Let this man also have the half so that there will be peace and tranquility in the land. Otherwise, he will take it all for the aggrieved person, and the other group will continue to fight back for the land. So this is what I think it may look as if the person hasn't done well, but has been a bit partial. But in real sense, and his own wisdom, he might have done what is just, and according to the dictates of the whole Quran.
Right. Justice Fofana, why are most justices unable to follow certain, let's say, some of these beautiful provisions that the Quran gives? Let me quote yet another one, chapter 5, verse 8. Let not the hatred of a people swerve you away from justice. Be just, for this is closest to righteousness. What do you think has been inhibiting, the desire by most of these judges to do it just right, but are usually swayed by other considerations? You are within the fraternity. What is the major problem?
Well, the most basic problem probably is interference with their work, because judges themselves are meant to be people who should be independent in the way they carry on with their duties and responsibilities as judges. That is why we talk all the time about the independence of the judiciary. But short independence, most of the time, is not available to them. Short independence is interfered with at times. So this sort of inhibits them, in some cases, to be able to do their work the way they should do it. But of course, this should not be an excuse for judges, I will say, simply because of the reason that they also have a duty to resist short interference in their work. Whenever they feel their independence is being interfered with, they still live under a duty to resist that interference and do the work the way they should do it.
Even if you will be booted out in the course
even
of
if
duty.
Even if it is at the risk of yourself or your family, you have to do your work as a judge.
Even if you know you will go hungry.
Even if you know you will go hungry, you have to do your work as a judge. Yes, definitely. That's what I mean. That even if it is at your own risk or at the risk of a family member of yours, in whatever way, you should be able to resist whatever interference that is done to your work, and then make sure you do your work the proper way.
Negative societal tag that is hanged around it.
Exactly, no matter what, as long as it is the law you are upholding. Right. As long as it is the law you are upholding, and as long as you are meant to dispense justice in the way it is stated, or it is meant for you to be carried out as a judge.
All right. Yes. Now, before I come to you, we have Mr. Emmanuel Sowate still with us. Mr. Sowate, I'm sure you are still following the discussion. We are told he's offline. Now, let's come back to you. As I indicated, the Supreme Head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, has been talking to world leaders about the need for justice. Let me ask you this. Why has he made justice the masterpiece of his speeches?
Like you said in the intro, out of justice comes peace. The absence of peace is sometimes due to injustice that is meted out to people, and so it is of prime importance that we see to it that there is fair deal and justice prevail everywhere. The Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, sometimes you may bring your disputes to me. I will look at the facts that you produce, and then based upon that, I will give my judgment. It may go in favor of one who is not entitled to it, who is not due for it, but because of the eloquence, because of the way matters and facts are presented, not that I am swayed or I'm convinced, but looking at it, I will think it is the right part, and I'll give my judgment. If it happens that the one who gets the verdict is not one who should get it, then he says that this justice is a help for that person,
Justice Fofana, you could give your final comment.
Well, It is just to say that the issue of justice in this modern world has now become very, very paramount, not only to communities, not only to religious groups such as the Ahmadiyya religious group, but to nations. But then again, in looking at it, we should be able to consider the fact that it has many facets, and the way in which it is also to be dispensed requires that we should always show consideration, we should always show equity, we should always try to judge which interest brings the greatest good for the greatest number. That is more of a utilitarian approach. When the Amir was addressing just now, he gave the example of a piece of land being claimed by two people. Now, he said if it is in the interest of dividing the land to both people claiming it, for peace to be achieved, for justice to be achieved, then that should be done, instead of taking it all together to give to one person.
Right.
Well, I think that is also quite in place. That is equitable justice.
Right.
It will bring about the greatest good for the greatest number. So I think that is how we should also be looking at justice these days. We should not only apply justice by way of strict interpretation.
Okay.
Conscience also plays a greater part. Equity plays a greater part. We should be able to look at our problems, either socially, politically, economically, and know how exactly we can approach them in order to bring the greatest good for the greatest numbers among our people.
Right. We want to thank you very much. Naib, your quick comment.
Well, the Prophet ﷺ has said that there cannot be justice which results in peace. There cannot be justice unless there is love among brothers. And there cannot be love among brothers unless there is peace. And therefore, he has urged all his adherents, all Muslims and all humanity, to, as much as possible, extend the salutation of peace to one another. Because if it's really coming from your heart, you wish a brother peaceful living, peaceful coexistence, you will not venture robbing him or murdering him or doing an injustice to him. So I think we should try to go that way, and that has been what our Khalifa has been saying from time immemorial, from the third Khalifa, that let us exhibit love for all and hatred for none. Spread peaceful salutation as much as possible, but it should be applicable in your life, not only by way of mouth. This will bring about love, which will end justice, and then it will bring up peace in our lives.
Thank you very much. So that's where we draw the curtains on this week's edition of Contemplation. We've been talking to Honorable Justice Abdullahi Sheikh Fofana, who is a judge of the High Court of Sierra Leone, and Naib Amir, one of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission of Ghana, Malvi Yusuf Yosin. So till we meet you again, have a wonderful weekend. And we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu.